So, what is the history of hospital-acquired infection? This was first observed by Dr. Ignos in 1841. He is an Hungarian obstetrician working in the Vienna Maternity Hospital. In that hospital, there are two wards, delivery wards. In one of the wards, delivery will be conducted by midwifery students, and in another ward, medical students. To his surprise, he found that delivery in the ward conducted by medical students, in that ward, death due to puerperal sepsis was 3 times higher compared to delivery conducted by midwifery students. He got surprised and he wanted to know what is the reason. He found that these medical students also work with the cadavers. These students, after working with the cadavers, directly come and work in the maternity ward and conduct deliveries. He thought that there is something that is transmitting from cadavers to the midwifery ward, and that is the reason there is high death rate among the women because of puerperal sepsis in the delivery ward conducted by medical students. He then ordered all the students to wash their hands after work in the cadaver ward and before proceeding to do deliveries in the maternity ward. To his surprise, even in the ward where medical students are conducting deliveries, there was much reduction in the death because of puerperal sepsis. This is the first and foremost incident where it was thought that there is something what is called as hospital acquired infection. Later on, Louis Pasteur and all other scientists have worked out and things have got better to find out something about the microorganisms and so on. Thank you. A hospital acquired infection, also called as nosocomial infection. It is an infection that is acquired in a hospital or any other healthcare facility. So, this hospital acquired infection, which is otherwise called as nosocomial infection, can be better termed as healthcare associated infection because people may get infection either in the hospital or nursing home, a rehabilitation center, or in the outpatient clinic, or in the diagnostic laboratory areas, or any other clinical settings. So, a hospital acquired infection, which is also called as nosocomial infection, can be better named as healthcare associated infection. So, how the patient, who will transfer the infection? So, one, the healthcare staff can spread the infection. Also, the contaminated equipment, it could be from the linens or from the air droplets. So, the patient can get infection either from the outside environment or from an infected person who is residing or who is sitting outside or besides to him, or from the staff who got earlier infection. So, however, sometimes the source of infection cannot be identified. This is about definition of nosocomial infection. So, this hospital acquired infection or healthcare associated infection can result in a hospital acquired pneumonia, or it can present as ventilator associated pneumonia, or it can present as urinary tract infection. It could be a gastroenteritis. It could be as a puerperal fever, or it may manifest following central line associated bloodstream infection. So, what is hospital acquired pneumonia? It is also called as nosocomial pneumonia, and this refers to any pneumonia contracted by the patient or seen in a patient who was admitted to the hospital and he is in the hospital for at least 48 to 72 hours. So then only after 48 to 78 hours only we can say it is a hospital acquired pneumonia. Earlier to it, it could be called as community acquired pneumonia. So that is the difference between hospital acquired pneumonia. So if a patient comes to the hospital and he develops respiratory symptoms after 48 to 72 hours of admission, then only it is called as hospital acquired pneumonia. If it is earlier, it is usually called as, what is that? Community acquired pneumonia. Similarly, what is the term, you can know what is about the ventilator associated pneumonia. What is that ventilator associated pneumonia? Here, this is a type of lung infection. It occurs in the people who are on mechanical ventilation breathing machines in the hospital. So, hospital acquired pneumonia is the pneumonia that occurs following 48 to 72 hours of infection admission in the ICU or into the hospital. That is called as hospital acquired pneumonia. Whereas ventilator associated pneumonia is the one, otherwise called as VAP. It is the infection of the lungs that occurs following mechanical ventilation with breathing machines in the hospital. Okay, then what we have to know something about urinary tract infections. It is the infection that affects the urinary tract. So if the infection of the urinary tract is known as cystitis, if it is the infection of the lower urinary tract involving the bladder, so it is also called as cystitis. Whereas the infection of the upper urinary tract is known as pyelonephritis. It is called as pyelonephritis, otherwise called as kidney infection. So then comes the gastroenteritis. The gastroenteritis is the infection of the or inflammation of the gastrointestinal tract. Next comes the puerperal fever. So puerperal fever is the fever that occurs in the after first 24 hours of the infection and within first 10 days following delivery. So a puerperal infection or puerperal fever is a bacterial infection of the female reproductive tract, and it usually follows a childbirth or a miscarriage. This puerperal infection usually occurs after the first 24 hours and within the first 10 days of the delivery. So it also next comes the central line associated bloodstream infection. Central line associated bloodstream infection. Here some serious patients who are in ICU need a catheter to be placed in the large vein. So the large veins are usually present in the central venous or otherwise called as central line or central venous line or central venous catheters. These are the different names it has given. Usually these central catheters are present in the neck, and it is called as the one such vein is the internal jugular vein, or it could be in the chest, and there it is the example includes subclavian vein or axillary vein, or it could be in the groin area where we can use femoral vein. So because these serious patients needs all the feeding or administration of drugs mainly through central venous catheter, so they are more prone for the infections majority of the times. So these hospital acquired infections could be in the may result in hospital acquired pneumonia, or it may result in ventilator associated pneumonia. It may produce urinary tract infection. It could be a gastroenteritis. It could be a puerperal fever, or it could be central line associated bloodstream infection. Then what are the common organisms that cause hospital-acquired infections? These include Staphylococcus aureus, or it could be methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It could be Candida albicans, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Acinetobacter baumannii, Stenotrophomonas maltophilia, Clostridium difficile, Escherichia coli, tuberculosis, vancomycin resistant enterococci, or it could be a Legionella disease. So to repeat again, what are the common organisms that are involved in hospital acquired infections? These include Staphylococcus aureus, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, Candida albicans, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Acinetobacter baumannii, Stenotrophomonas maltophilia, Clostridium difficile, Escherichia coli, tuberculosis, vancomycin resistant enterococci, Legionella disease. Not only this, there are some other organisms which are we will be learning them afterwards. Several factors contribute to the occurrence and severity of hospital infections. So what are they? Number one, many patients in hospital have impaired defense mechanism, maybe because of their disease or maybe the drugs they have received earlier. So once they reach the hospital, they are more susceptible to the infection. Number two, the hospital itself is heavily laden with the wide variety of pathogens. So when a patient comes from the community and got admission in the hospital, he becomes more susceptible to acquire majority of the infections that are present in the hospital, and thus he may get hospital acquired infection. So apart from that, contamination of hospital food or water may also cause outbreaks of infection. Number three, majority of the invasive procedures like diagnostic procedures, therapeutic procedures will be carried out only in the hospitals. So the slightest lapse in the aseptic precautions may lead to hospital acquired infections. Also, hospital infections are very serious and they are very difficult to treat because the organisms which are present in the hospital environment are usually resistant to majority of the antibiotics that are in common use. 5. Hospital infections are in a sense diseases of medical progress. As advancement in the medicine or treatment is going on, people are getting more number of other diseases. For example, advances in the treatment of cancer, organ transplantation, implanted prostheses, and other sophisticated medical practices increases the risk of infection, because once these patients from the community have got admission into the hospital, and they may get a new hospital acquired infections. Next, what are the main routes of transmission that results in hospital acquired infection? This includes contact transmission, droplet transmission, airborne transmission, some vehicle transmission, or vector-borne transmission. Let us know in detail about them. The contact transmission is the most important and frequent method of nosocomial infection transmission. This again, contact transmission is of two types, namely direct contact transmission or indirect contact transmission. The direct contact transmission involves a direct body surface to surface contact and transmission. Here, an infected person or a colonized person, such as a person who could be a patient who sits nearby, or a healthcare worker like a doctor, nurse, or some other ward boy who comes in contact with the patient, may, because of his direct contact, while treating him may transmit the infection. So this could be because of healthcare worker or because of contact between two patients, with one serving as the source of infection. Next, the indirect transmission. The indirect transmission is because of, usually it is some objects or inanimate things like needles, dressings, or contaminated gloves, or syringes, vials, like that. So these are called as inanimate subjects, called as foments. So even the stethoscope, the thermometer. So an indirect transmission to a susceptible person in the hospital can occur because of contact with the foments. Next comes the droplet transmission. Here the transmission occurs when droplets containing the microbes enters the susceptible person from an infected person. These droplets are generated usually while speaking, coughing, sneezing, or certain procedures like doing bronchoscopy. So a droplet infection occurs because of droplets containing the microbes reaches the susceptible person from another infected person, maybe while he is speaking, coughing, sneezing, or because of some procedures like bronchoscopy. Then other transmission method is what is called as airborne method of transmission. So here droplet nuclei, that is droplet nuclei are small particles less than 5 microns or still lesser. These droplets contain the microorganisms and they remain suspended in the air for long time. Or this droplet infection can also occur because of dust particles containing the infectious agent. So some of the infections that occur because of droplet airborne transmission includes legionella infection, infections from the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, viruses like rubiola, varicella infections. Then common vehicle transmission. Vehicle could be, that is, through some media. Such media includes food, water, or medications, or through equipment, or from the devices. So contact transmission, airborne transmission, and some vehicle like water, food, and medications transmission. Next comes the vector-borne diseases. The vector includes mosquitoes, flies, rats, so many other things which can transmit the infection. Next comes the how we can control these hospital acquired infections. So controlling the nosocomial infection is by implementing strict quality analysis and quality control measures in the healthcare facilities. For example, the ventilator associated pneumonia or hospital acquired pneumonia can be controlled by monitoring indoor air quality. So by if a known quality of air, which is purified air, is present, this can be done by quality assurance and quality control. These patients getting transmitted hospital acquired infection like ventilator associated pneumonia or hospital acquired pneumonia can be controlled. So here we are admitting the air whose concentration which is safe from the microorganisms. Apart from that, hospitals should have strict sanitation protocols. This includes use of uniforms, sterilization equipment and sterilization process which is very strict enough, regular washing, using of alcohol rubs, use of antimicrobial policies. These are very important in the control. Most important thing is sterilization. It kills all microorganisms. What is the process? Sterilization? It is a process of killing of microorganisms both in its vegetative form and on the spore form from any surface of equipment or a media. So sterilization is the most important step which should be followed to control hospital acquired infections. Then comes the isolation of the patient. These patients should be isolated in the isolation rooms or isolation bay should be followed. For example, we have to use negative pressure isolation room to protect the healthcare workers from the infected source of infected patient. For example, to protect from corona infection, the corona patient should be kept in the negative pressure room, isolated in the negative pressure room, and healthcare will be person should be protected. Whereas an immunocompromised patient should be protected from healthcare individuals or healthcare personnel. So here the protection of the immunocompromised patients can be done by keeping this immunocompromised patient in a positive pressure room. Apart from that, we have to follow the universal precautions very strictly. Then the transmission based precautions. So we will be knowing that is the standard precautions to control each and every organism. So there are certain specific modes to control each and every organism. So we have to implement universal precautions and also strict implementation of transmission based precautions. Above all, hand washing is the simple and single most important method to control majority of the infections. Because majority of the infections are present over the skin, washing of hands promptly helps us to prevent and carry infected material onto the patients. And also we will be touching blood products, secretions, excretions. So such direct transmission can be controlled by doing regular hand washing. So hand washing can be done by using alcohol based sanitizers, or simply the best is the using soaps. Next comes the regular usage of gloves. These gloves plays an important role in reducing infection transmission. So whenever a healthcare worker is handling some body fluids or secretions, always he has to follow occupational safety and health safety measures. One such measure is using gloves to reduce the likelihood of transmission of microorganisms from source to the patient. This wearing the gloves following the universal precautions should be applicable not only to the healthcare workers, but also this should be strictly implemented to all the visitors who come and meet the patient, because these visitors are the persons who will either bring the infection from outside or they will transmit this hospital infection to the community, which produces more problems. Then surface sterilization. Surface sterilization is all the surfaces which is present in the room and all. Modern sterilizing methods like using non-inflammable alcohol vapor methods in carbon dioxide system or high pressure vapor producing hydrogen peroxide. These are more important in controlling the surface infections These will control infections of like gastroenteritis. They will control viral infections. They will control high pressure hydrogen peroxide cleaning may control Candida infections in the ICU. Also, there are certain organisms like Clostridium difficile which is spore forming. So here also handling of these fecal samples, cleaning of the floor with Lysol is very important. Apart from that, use of ultraviolet sterilization of the rooms is also very much helpful to control the surfaces. Then we certain dusting powders, application of tincture benzoate on the surfaces, cleaning the surface before any procedure by ethyl alcohol or methyl alcohol or with Lysol helps to control the transmission of infection. Okay, that is about the prevention of the hospital acquired infections. Dentists are more prone for certain infections because they will be doing procedures coming very close to the mouth of the patient. So they are having every chance to get either contact infection, there are chances for droplet infection, or they will get because of droplet infection because of coughing, sneezing and talking to the patient, or may get droplet nuclei, that is airborne infection. So these infections will be the dentist will get. And here also next is the patient. Dentist will be using so many number of different instruments, and from the dentist the other patient may get infected. So dental infections is mutual in situation. This can be prevented. How? One, the dentist will be get protected from the infective source from the patient by using eye goggles, very good mask, and by using gloves regularly. Here compromising any one of those things may result the dentist being infected with majority of the infections. Then the patient should be protected by using highly sterilized instruments. So regular sterilization, cleaning and sterilization of the instruments, dental instruments is very important. Second, they use this dental tray. This dental tray should be cleaned thoroughly after using for each and every patient with either methyl alcohol or hydrogen peroxide swabs. This is the most important thing. Next is the dental chair should be properly cleaned after use by each and every patient, or at least a couple of patients. And this dental room itself can be sterilized at least 3 days by using high pressure evaporated hydrogen peroxide, or by cleaning all the surfaces with 7% hydrogen peroxide and cleaning the floor with Lysol or with 1% hypo solution. So strict following of these measures will help to control majority of the dental infection. Coming on to the treatment of hospital acquired infections, we know broadly there are the bacteria are some are gram positive and some are gram negative. So majority of the time it is better to do investigations. For gram positive organisms, the most common organism which can produce infection includes methicillin resistant Staph aureus. So such infection can be controlled easily or usually by using vancomycin or by using drugs like linezolid. Compared to gram-positive organisms, the gram-negative organisms include most common organisms are Acinetobacter baumannii or Klebsiella species, especially ESBL producing Klebsiella. These gram-negative organisms are a little bit difficult to control, and Here for controlling we had to use strict antibiotic policy, and the patient should be used antibiotic specific to that local hospital, and these antibiotics should be changed following the results from the culture and sensitivity. So strict implementation of antibiotic policies apart from all the preventive steps helps to control majority of the hospital acquired infections.